Okay, so it's on to the lower section of the suit. And what we did is we went ahead and created a cylinder and just fitted it around the waist area and deleted any unnecessary bottom piece. So we just want just a strip going around to represent the waist. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna enclose the inner edge. We're gonna have that extruded all the way around to the back and have that middle section closed off. And then from here, we're just gonna start just fleshing this out around the legs. Now, however your approach in terms of doing the crotch area, you could go ahead and do pretty much however you feel comfortable, as long as when you're finished with it, the loops are flowing in a way that it's not going to be it's not going to produce bad deformation. So as long as the end result is fine, then you could go ahead and just take whichever approach you're comfortable with. Okay, so one thing to emphasize is that we need a wide range of motion, especially in his legs. There are numerous shots where he's going to be sitting in the helicopter, and there's one wide shot in particular that you notice him sitting and smoking the cigar. And he's sitting down means that his legs are going to be at a 90-degree angle from his body. Therefore, we have to make sure that the topology around the crotch area is is flowing in such a way that there's not going to be any major deformation issues. Normally, this is a sensitive area, and we're going to just go ahead and build in this area first before we continue on the rest of the legs. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're just going to go ahead and build out the most sensitive areas in terms of deformation issues, and we'll make sure that our geometry is flowing correctly. Okay, let's fill this in. Okay, so we're gonna start just extruding these guys around and then building out the rest of our pans from there. Okay, let's attach. Go ahead and merge this guy onto here, and we're gonna continue with the rest. We're gonna continue until we have this hole filled in. Okay, let's move this around. Okay, let's just get everything filled in. Making sure our loops are running across in somewhat of a neatly manner. Okay, so we went ahead and just filled the gaps that we had, and we started to just add some of the little ridges in. But for now, we're just going to extrude the rest of the pant leg all the way down. Okay, let's extrude this. And we're just gonna roughly just get somewhat of an even spacing all the way down, but it's just gonna be rough for now, and then we'll go back in and get it closer to the leg. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start adding in these just ridges that Peter has in his concept. And we're gonna make sure the topology is flowing in the direction of any of the ridges that we want to add in the suit. So right now they seem to be fine. The geometry is flowing in that direction, so we're just going to go ahead and insert loops and take it out a little bit, pop it out, make sure it's protruding not too much, or make sure the ridges aren't too wide or too narrow. Seems fine right now. Seems about right. So we're going to go ahead and get these ridges across also. And right now we're not worrying about the pocket intersecting with the geometry. We'll go back in and make sure that's flushed on there. So we're removing our previous loops, and we're gonna have this guy cut right across instead of continuing all the way up. Seems a little bit too bulky in this area, and we'll also revisit the underlying body and move some stuff around if we have to. But for the time being, we'll just leave it the way it is, or just pop it out a little bit more. Okay, that should be fine. Just continue adding in these ridges over here. And usually you get upon smooth time, you get you'll get a sharper edge if you have two loops together, hence adding in loops together to form the ridge. What we're gonna do is, if we have that topology running past the point where we actually want to have a ridge, I'll just go with one thing I do is just go ahead and just smooth those out of the way, spread those out apart. Okay, so we're gonna go in and gonna also cut these across. So our geometry, we made sure we had at least one edge flowing in the same direction that we want the ridge to be going. So we're gonna go ahead and have a area separated by this ridge right here. So beforehand we went in and just had our topology run in that direction. And it's really important to consciously be aware of what you're going to be modeling into your shape next. So if you're not aware of what you're doing next, then you're going to have to go in and move stuff around. But if you just lay the groundwork um, beforehand, then it just makes it a lot easier. Okay, so let's just do some minor adjustments. We have this pad come around a little bit closer to the side of the leg. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make some minor adjustments. So while we're modeling this character here, we're trying to get the high-res out. At the same time, the proxy model that we sent off to the rigger at the beginning of this DVD already has a temp rig, and that's already delivered to the animators also. So Spencer already has a temp rig set up, and he's constantly working on it. And Burke is actually doing some testing, trying to find out if there's anything that's gonna break on the rig or just getting the animation started. So one of the reasons for that proxy model, which is really important part of production, is so that you're not holding up a lot of time by taking however long it's going to take you to actually model out the high res. So using that proxy model, the rig is being developed and animation could get started at the same time. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just continuing to add in these ridged areas. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start rerouting the topology. Originally, we just had it built by just extruding all the way down to the bottom of the foot, but now we're actually gonna go back in and gonna cut across to mimic what Peter had did in his concept. I think it's a cool design breakup. Just it's also eye-catching having these ridges run around the inside of the leg. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna delete and we're just gonna go ahead and start just cutting right across. Then we'll go back in and do any cleanup later on. Okay, so let's analyze how we're going to actually do this. Some more minor adjustments. Actually, I think this needs to be a little bit further up, so we're gonna just change where we originally had the ridge. So we're gonna add one in here and just take out the one right below it. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of this. And let's just go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Okay, so now we just went ahead and just make some minor adjustments. Instead of trying to move the original ridge that we had, instead of just moving that up, then we'll probably have to change topology by adding in a loop underneath that. So what we did, we just went in there, took it out, and just cleaned it up afterwards. A lot of times it's easier just to go back in and just undo what you had done and just do it right. Doing it right the first time usually saves you a lot of times. A lot of times I find that it takes just so much more time tweaking or trying to leave something in and trying to make it work, even though you know that topology looks like it's a little bit unworkable. You're still trying to just make it work. So a lot of times it's easier just to go back in and just do it right the first time. Some more minor adjustments. Okay, let's go ahead and break this ridge and have it going around the inner thigh. So just gonna draw this. I'm gonna split along this predefined edge we added in earlier. Okay, let's clean this up. Okay, we just let's add an edge in here so when we smooth this, it actually holds that corner instead of rounding off. Okay, now when smooth this, the corner is being held, but we have that little crease right underneath because our edges are too close to each other. So let's go in, space these guys out a little bit, see what it looks like again after we smooth. And we're still getting something in there, but it's a lot better. So we'll move on for now. Okay. Okay, we're setting up the geometry for the crease that runs from the where the pocket is towards that arc. So let's just move some geometry around, and then we're gonna go in and just start splitting. Okay, let's go ahead and merge these, and let's start getting our crease in here. This section an indent, so a ridge. So let's look at it. Still could use some straighten up. Right now it just seems a little curved. So we'll just shift things around. Okay, let's just go ahead and continue this underneath the pocket. And a lot of times, you in modeling, you're just doing the same things over and over and over. It gets a little mundane, but then you get to move on to a different piece, and then that becomes a lot more interesting. So right now, I just want to get in all these ridges so I could move on to the rest of the lower part of the body. So there's supposed to be a kind of like a buckle. It's not really a buckle, like a clip or a clasp in the middle. So let's just delete a couple of the ridge which we had going all the way around, and let's just cut around it and have the ridges end right here. Later on, we're gonna add in that little clip, and it's gonna sit into a little groove. For now, that should be fine. Okay, so that's fine. So let's move on to the pads. Start building out some of the pads on the side of the pants. And we're just gonna throw some loops in here um, just to separate what the pads are, so we can go ahead and just extrude that out. So we're gonna do a first pass, a quick extrude just to see what it looks like. And if there needs to be any changes, we'll just go back in and adjust that. See, the thing is, we don't want to make it. We want to keep it consistent with the pads that we have on the arm. We don't want to make it too rigid, but at the same time, it can't be too subtle. So we just gotta find a fine line in between. Later on, when we take this into ZBrush, we'll be able to just add a little bit more realism, a little bit more natural look to that. Maybe there'll be a subtle wrinkle going across. Right now, it's hard to see it looking like it's supposed to be, because it just looks like we're just cutting these grooves into this surface. Whereas if it was a real suit, then chances are not all of it would be perfectly tight. I don't think this is like a wetsuit, so there would be some looseness to it, but not too much. So we're gonna go ahead and just try to end these loops so we don't have it running across. We just need the loops in just to build the pads, so whatever excess loop we have running across the leg, we're gonna just get rid of that. Okay, we can go ahead and delete that. And this actually just saves you a lot of poly count, especially when you're handing this off to be rigged. You want to keep the geometry as light as possible. These needs to be protruded out a little bit more. Okay, let's continue on just getting in the rest of the shape. Assign a material to that. And basically, I'm just assigning, you may notice I just have different tones of blends assigned just to visually break up the materials for me when I'm modeling. So it serves no purpose as far as me handing this geometry off, but it's just for me to get a better sense of how the different parts of the pants interact with each other. Okay, we have pads going all the way across the back of the leg, so we're gonna get those in. Also, we have pads on the little bit lower in the pants behind the calf, so we're gonna also have to get those in there also. Okay, so basically we're just gonna continue on what we're doing right now. We're gonna get the pads going all the way down and behind the thighs and all the way down behind the calf area. It's pretty much the same routine of what we've been doing for the past couple of minutes. Just get in there and making sure that the lines are flowing in the right direction and just grabbing some faces and doing an extrude. So I think we're gonna go ahead and move on to the foot right now. So let's start building out the boot area. So we just start with a cylinder and delete the unnecessary faces that we don't need, and just start shaping it. And this is gonna be it's like a shin pad or shin guard or something. It sits right above the boot. So we're gonna go ahead and just rough this shape in. We're gonna get a few spans across so we could shape this to our leg. Pretty straightforward. And it's a relief to be able to move on to the shoe right now. As I said, sometimes just doing the same thing over and over, working on a model or a piece of object or a part of a model for just way too long, you just tend to want to get to the next stage. So we're on the shoe right now, so that should be fun. So we're just getting in the little intricate designs that Pete has in his concept. And we're just gonna go ahead and delete these guys. So we build everything single shell first, and once we're done, we just go right in and just do an overall extrude, and we'll get thickness across all our borders. So let's get this on that side also. Actually, I think this should have been in the other line. Okay, so let's use this edge as our middle and just get the shape. And let's do the same for the top. And let's keep it as simple as we can. Let's just add some puff this area out a little bit. Just add a little bit of realism, since that should be where Geo's ankles are. So let's get a little groove in here. Also, what we could do, we could go and use the duplicate edge tool. What that does is it'll put two adjacent loops in there and have the middle loop selected. So go ahead and do that, or you could go ahead and add those loop manually and then do a loop select on the middle loop. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. as they both save a lot of time. So personal preference. So we're gonna go ahead and extrude and make sure to always make sure to delete the inner faces, since we're not gonna ever see inside of the boot, so inside of the shin guard. So go ahead and always make sure you don't have unnecessary faces. Okay, so always remember to delete those faces. By extruding your object, you're actually more than doubling your current poly count. So you don't want to have those excess faces just sitting inside there, taking up render time. So just keep a conscious note to just remember to delete any faces that you're not going to see, especially if they're not like a pocket area that we did earlier where you may see inside. This we know for a fact that we're never going to see inside, so just go ahead and delete that. So we're going to go and start the shoe area, and most of the stuff we're creating are from either cubes or cylinders. You can pretty much start anything from a cube. A lot of times we'll use the create poly tool when it's slightly more custom shape, but as far as everything else, you could go right ahead and start from a cube or a cylinder if it's a circular object. So we're just gonna block this in and just get the basic shape. This shoe is gonna have some padding, so we want to make sure that our topology is okay, where we could duplicate some of the faces and just go ahead and use that as the exterior padding. So we selected some faces back here. Let's go ahead and pop those out. I know right now it looks like a brick, but starting from a cube is just you just. And remember now we're getting the rough shape in the lowest form of geometry that we can, instead of just adding a bunch of loops and then trying to have that fit over the foot. So that should always be a conscious note. You should always remember to start from your lightest geometry and build on top of that. And it's just saves you a lot of time, and there's a lot less loops for you to move around. So just block it out as good as you can before you start adding in any geometry. We're just continuing to match this as close to the contours of the foot as possible. And keep in mind that this is going to be tucked under the shin pads, and there's going to be other pads on top of the shoe. So there's a lot of layers on this design that Peter did, so which I think makes it a lot easier instead of having one continuous open surface. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a sole to the bottom of the shoe. I just used the fill hole feature. Okay, so we're just gonna split across. Just as temp for now, we're gonna go back in and clean this up, but I just want to get the heel area in. Another thing to keep in mind is that we don't have any context in which we're gonna be up close to the shoe, so we don't actually need to have it be extremely well built but nevertheless, I'm gonna go in and just still try to build it out as much as I can. Okay, we're just moving, getting some minor adjustments. Gonna go ahead and add an extra loop across. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just use the same topology that we have right here, and we're gonna extract um, the pads that are on the shoe. So let's just cut this heel area out and go ahead and select this toe region, and there's a mid flap that goes across. We're also going to extract that guy out also. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just add supporting edges and just flesh out the shapes a little bit more. Also with the underlying shoe, we're gonna do the same for that. Here it is. This is what we started with the cube, and here's the shoe. And as far as the pads, we went ahead and just added some more geometry and supported um, the edges and make sure it's just sitting snugly on the shoe area. As far as the strap, we just took that from one of the straps we built up top, and basically that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this file up, make sure everything's named, then it's gonna be off to Ben so you can start UVing.